Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, those Remainers, they never stop, do they? They keep on going, whether it's in the House of Lords, whether it's David Miliband coming back from New York, or today, the venue moved to Edinburgh, to the Scottish Parliament. And the Scottish Parliament has voted today against the government's EU withdrawal bill. Here were the results, an hour or two back.
The result of the vote is yes 93, no 30. The motion as amended is therefore agreed.
So there we are. By 93 votes to 30, the Scottish Parliament has agreed not to endorse the government's EU withdrawal bill. Which were the parties that voted in this direction? Well, of course, the SNP, Scottish Labour, the Scottish Green Party and the Scottish Liberal Democrats. The only party there that voted actually for the EU withdrawal bill were the Scottish Conservatives. And here is SNP's Scottish Brexit Minister, Mike Russell, justifying this vote.
It cannot become law without the consent of the Parliament and the country it affects. And there have been 30 orders passed under Section 30 since the Parliament was established, all the product of agreement, all passed in this place and at Westminster.
Well, actually, matey, it can, because although we've got devolution in this country, legally, on this, the government does not have to respond to what the Scottish Parliament have said. Now, the Northern Ireland Assembly is currently suspended. The Welsh Assembly has agreed already, albeit reluctantly in some cases, but has agreed to the government's EU withdrawal bill. It is just the Scottish Parliament. And Cabinet Minister David Lidington has said in response, we have always been clear that it is not right that one part of the UK could hold a veto over the others when it comes to, for example, protecting the vital common market of the whole of the UK. Isn't that fascinating that when we talk about common market here, it's not an EU reference, it's about the UK common market. So the government being clear, but I'm asking you, if Scotland won't listen to the result of a national referendum, to what the British Parliament in Westminster, albeit with the odd amendment on the other way, has decided, should we simply tell Scotland where to go? And if you think Sturgeon and the gang, once again, are massively overstepping the mark in a very provocative way, and we should tell them where to go, call me on 0345 6060 973. Maybe you think, no, actually, we should listen to Scotland. After all, by 62 to 38, they did vote to remain part of the European Union, in which case text to 84850, or maybe you think, actually, whichever way we turn, Brexit's in real trouble now. Goodness knows what the next few weeks will bring. And if that's how you feel, please tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC, and of course you can watch us on Facebook Live and comment there too. I have to say that Nicola Sturgeon, remarkable, isn't it, really? I mean, she didn't accept the result of the 2014 Scottish referendum. And by the way, they called it an independence referendum. What a misnomer. They never wanted independence. They wanted to leave, go away from Westminster, but still be part of the European Union. So it was really a referendum on separation, not one actually on independence. She doesn't accept that result and thinks perhaps they should vote again. And then in 2016, with a national referendum on leaving the European Union, she doesn't accept that result either. Is it any wonder that the SNP, who did reach, it has to be said, very, very giddy electoral heights, is it any wonder that now, actually, they're on the way down? I think we should, and Lidington said what he said, I frankly think the Prime Minister should be a little bit firmer about this. Let's tell the Scottish Parliament where to go. Otherwise, we have the devolution dog. You know, really, the tail is going to be wagging the national dog. That would be a mistake, in my view. Others may think differently. Others may think we should listen to what the Scottish Parliament has to say on this. I wonder what James in Clapham makes of this.
Good evening, Nigel.
Good evening.
Nigel, we voted part of the United Kingdom. Okay?
We did.
So the United Kingdom, basically, we voted to leave, so the Scottish Parliament should pass it through. What she's trying to do is grab attention yet again because basically referendum 2 is off the cards. She wants to basically put herself back in the headlines again. The Welsh Assembly passed the Brexit bill today.
Absolutely.
Now, the Welsh Assembly, the Labour Party, have not got a majority. They've got a majority with a Lib Dem and a Plaid member of the Cabinet. Plaid Cymru, UKIP, Conservatives, Labour authorised it and passed it. Now, they passed it for the will of the Welsh people, not for party political gains, as the SNP have done. And we should be, as you correctly said, Nigel, we should put our foot down and tell Holyrood what their laws are, and we are pushing Brexit through.
I guess the one difference, James, is that Wales as a whole voted to leave the European Union, so I guess it would have been surprising if the Welsh Assembly had not voted to give consent to the government's national EU withdrawal bill, whereas Scotland did vote the other way, James, didn't it?
Yes, Nigel, I agree with you, but we've got Carwyn Jones and the Cabal, which is the Labour Party in the Assembly. Mm-hmm. They objected to it. They objected viciously to it, but they have accepted it.
Yes. And the SNP don't accept anything, James, do they?
No, they only want independence and to make-believe, because if they were independent...
No, James, they don't want independence. I will not have this word used without challenge. They want...
They want to be a member state of the European Union.
That's right, and that's not independence, James, is it?
No, it's not, and they could do it under the wish-wash that oil prices would have saved them. They would be bankrupt. They're bankrupt now if they were, and they would be in the same position as Greece would be. If she wants to do that, then go ahead and do it. Because if you want to do it, go to the polls and do it. Because you know that you will be beaten again for the second time, Mrs. Sturgeon.
The truth is, James, she's using this because she wants to break up the United Kingdom and break Scotland away. Does there come a point, James, with English and Welsh voters particularly, and some Northern Irish too, where the Scots sending signals like this leads the rest of us to say, the hell with you?
I agree with you, Nigel. Do you know what we should do? Is call her bluff.
Yep.
Let her have her second referendum.
And finish it off.
And the next day when she gets a kick-in like she did last time.
Yeah, I think you may be right, James. Thank you very much indeed for your call. Lee on Facebook says, the Scottish Parliament is a failed system. The SNP have proved they can't do their job. On Twitter, Benjamin says to me, the Scottish Government is getting a bit too big for its boots. No, Westminster should plough on ahead and deliver Brexit. I think that is their intention, although whether ultimately they've got a majority there remains to be seen. Justin takes a different view. He says, I think Brexit is over. Also, I think it was never going to happen. The political elite were never going to let it happen. Well, Justin, there are many in the political elite that will do their utmost to stop Brexit from happening, but I tell you what, if they really do try, and as I've been hearing today from people, well, maybe, Nigel, what we've got to do is delay Article 50 by a couple of years. You know, we don't need to leave on March 29th next year. We could leave it for a couple more years. Boy, I tell you what, there will be a huge public reaction to that. But for the moment, let's focus on the Scottish Parliament and what our reaction to them should be. And David is a new caller from Glasgow. Good evening, David.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Well, you've seen the result. It's 93 votes to 30 that the Scottish Parliament rejects the UK's nationwide EU withdrawal bill. I mean, David, we can't be bullied around by the Scottish Parliament, can we?
Definitely not. I think it's an absolute disgrace. The SNP and the allies that they have in the Green Party are basically using this as a way to stir grievance and division in this country. And we had a referendum up here in 2014.
Yep.
And the country was basically divided into... It wasn't pleasant towards the last...
David, wasn't pleasant. I found myself in Edinburgh, just down the road from the Scottish Parliament, surrounded by a mob of, I would think, 80 to 90
it was disgusting.
People. They were all... the anti-English chants that were given
it is absolutely
were quite, it's unbelievable. And of course, the Edinburgh police, who I have to say, David, responded quickly and well, and it finished up very funny. They locked me in a pub for my own safety, where I was stuck for an hour or two. But David, I saw a side of Scottish nationalism that was really vicious, nasty,
Yeah,
abusive.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
But I tell you what I couldn't believe. The next day, it was obviously a major news story. You know, Farage gets driven off the streets in Edinburgh. Alex Salmond wouldn't condemn that behaviour. And I thought then, there's something here about Scottish nationalism that really is pretty damn nasty.
Well, I live up here, and I've basically had the SNP in power for, years and years and years now. Okay, admittedly, they are a minority government. However, there is a particular section of the Scottish nationalist support, sort of cultural Marxist, sort of socialist hardliners that have an incredibly anti-English viewpoint. Now, there's 400,000 English people living in Scotland. They've moved up to Scotland. It's 8% of the population. I've got a lot of English friends. And they actually, admittedly, some have actually felt it. Not so much anything physical or verbally abusive, but during that referendum, they weren't scared, or it's just more like a sort of certain sense of discomfort and uneasy. And I can't even. I've got the words to describe to you how much it hurts me as a Scotsman who's also British and believes in this country, believes in the country getting out of the EU. I cannot understand why the Scottish Parliament would put themselves in a situation where they're now facing our national government, which of course is down in London.
Because they want David to stir division. You said it yourself earlier on this phone call.
Yeah, I know.
They want to stir. David, thank you for your call. And David's comments and my comments about the SNP and the unpleasantness that he and I saw does not apply to everybody that voted for Scottish separation. In a moment, I'll go back to Glasgow and get a different point of view. But for the moment, you're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, and it's 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
Shoppers reportedly reacted angrily yesterday over the high street chain New Look selling garments for women who are size 16 and above for more than clothes aimed at their thinner counterparts. Catherine Sheretsky, who's a body image campaigner.
Why should we pay like 20 quid more? Again, people come in different shapes and sizes.
No, I know. If you eat less and exercise more, you will become thinner. So if a woman wants to avail herself of a cheaper frock, she possibly eats less and cycles more, and she can get the cheaper price.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With The Times. Be not just informed, but well informed.
OK, children, settle down. Thank you for bringing your pets in for Bring Your Pet to School Day. Megan, who is this delightful little ball of fur?
It's Treacle, my guinea pig, miss.
Adorable. And Alfie, who's this?
It's Ronaldo, my rabbit, miss.
What a darling. And what's in the wooden crate, Poppy?
Fluffy.
That's a very strong lock. This way, children.
With a Land Rover Discovery, adventure can take you, well, anywhere. Never stop discovering. Search Land Rover Discovery. Land Rover, above and beyond.
Clear a house, clear an office, clear a little bit, or clear loads of it. With Clearabee, getting rid of rubbish is quick, easy and affordable. Choose our man and van rubbish removal service and we'll come and clear almost any rubbish from almost anywhere. Because whatever you want rid of, there's a Clearabee man in a Clearabee van who can do it professionally and legally. Book now at clearabee.co.uk.
Clear rubbish easily. Clearabee.
It's in my hair, my eyebrows, it's even up my nose. They make painting look easy on the telly, but let me tell you, it's not. The wall looks like it's been finger painted by a giant child. Who's going to rescue this? Oh, relax. It's Trust a Trader. Actual professionals who know what they're doing and don't leave the place looking like, well, my face. Now I can concentrate on the important stuff. Whispering peach or dirty mayonnaise. Visit trustatrader.com.
TrustATrader.com.
Right now, you can drive off with Aviva car insurance rated 5-star by de facto from just £176 a year. And should you need us, our claims line is open 24/7. Get a quote today direct from aviva.co.uk.
10% of customers paid £176 or less for our standard cover, November 2017 to January 2018. Priced individually.
Hi, I'm Chloe from Network Rail. I have some important news if you're travelling over the bank holiday at the end of May. From Saturday, the 26th, to Monday, the 28th of May, our team of engineers will be working to deliver essential rail upgrades. Some services will be affected, so please check before you travel at nationalrail.co.uk/May or contact your train operator. Network Rail, working for you.
Businesses do not like uncertainty, yet uncertainty is inevitable with Brexit looming. Against this backdrop, only businesses that plan ahead and anticipate better will be able to weather the challenges and capitalise on opportunities. At Barnes Rofe, we'll help you get ready with detailed budgets and forecasts so that you're better equipped to deal with the uncertainties ahead. Get ready for a Brexit future. Call Barnes Rofe today. Barnes Rofe. Clever accountants for business.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
By 93 votes to 30, the Scottish Parliament votes to reject the government's EU withdrawal bill. I'm asking you, is it time to tell them where to go? Tell you what's funny, though, about all of this. You got the Scottish Parliament, you got David Miliband, Sir Nick Clegg, and, goodness knows, Ramona's all over the place, arguing we have to stay part of this wonderful, successful, fantastic, superb, magnificent European Union project. Well, let me tell you what happened today in Italy. I've talked a little bit in the last 48 hours about the formation of this new government in Italy. It is the first populist, that's the word that would be used, government of a major European country. Matteo Salvini, leader of the Lega, one of the two parties now about to form this government in Italy, tweeted this today. Quotes, "We hope there will be no changes to the Italian immigration policy," said European Commissioner Greek Avramopoulos. "Another interference by non-elected representatives. We have received and maintained too much. Now is the moment of legality, safety and rejection." And I want to say to all of you, Alistair Campbell, Nicola Sturgeon, all of you Remainers, whether we go to Hungary, whether we go to Poland, whether we now go to Italy, what we find are that the political parties that are winning elections are saying we don't want to be governed by unelected bureaucrats like Mr. Avramopoulos telling us what we can and can't do. Actually, folks, you want us to stay part of something that is literally crumbling before our eyes. That's my view. But back to that Scottish vote, back to our attitudes towards it. Robbie is on the line from Glasgow. Good evening, Robbie.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm well. So were they within their rights, Robbie, to vote this way?
I think they definitely were. I'd like to say that I think it's quite ironic, given your stance on why we should have left Europe, about decisions being made for us when we didn't even vote for them, that it's quite ironic that you have the stance that we should be able to tell the Scottish Government where to go when we disagree with Westminster.
What does your passport say, Robbie?
It says Great Britain, of course it does.
Right.
But I think that if you're talking about a country with as vast a history as we have, with two parliaments, two different kingdoms, you can't just take the last 300 years and say,
Robbie,
make all of the decisions, especially when we are...
I'm sorry. Do you have a separate Scottish king or queen then now? Perhaps I've missed this.
No, you didn't. We don't, but it doesn't really matter if you follow Hungarian lines of succession, because kings and queens have always taken over the lands. Even though that governments have been formed or unformed, we had the same king and queen as England when we weren't even joined by the Acts of Union for nearly 100 years. The monarchy doesn't stand for a country.
All right. Well, then, I'm sorry, but you said separate kingdom, Robbie. Isn't the fact here that whether you like it or not, the Scottish people had an opportunity to break away from the United Kingdom and to become province number 382 of Mr. Juncker's Brussels, and you chose not to do so. Having made that decision, isn't it right you have to accept a national United Kingdom Brexit result?
I'm quite happy to take on the Brexit result. For me, I mean, I was a Remain voter, but I'm more than happy to change so that the country can better, because this is where we're going, whether I like it or not. The thing that bothers me, it really comes down to the whole reason that we ended up swinging towards a no vote for Scottish independence was because we were told we wouldn't leave the EU, and we were told that we'd have devoluted powers. If we let this bill pass, we'll have 7 years of not making our own decisions for this country, which is a slap in the face for everyone who voted for the United Kingdom that was going to give us devoluted powers and was going to keep us in the EU, and now they have not. To me, we've got neither of those things, so I'm a bit put out.
Robbie, there may be a delay period, but ultimately, doesn't Brexit give the Scottish Parliament even more autonomy, ultimately, over areas like fishing and farming? Doesn't Brexit actually give the Scottish Government more power?
In 7 years' time.
Yes.
But to me, what's the point of... So you can have your devoluted powers, but we want to do this, even though you all vote. Like, to me, it's just, I think the whole system needs rethought. I'm not saying we need to leave the UK, I'm not saying we need to have another Brexit bill, but I do think that the powers in all of the kingdoms of Great Britain need to be given better say and more power to govern without rubbing shoulders, rubbing the wrong way with Westminster all the time. Why not have more powers so that we can get along rather than constantly...
Robbie, I
can't do that.
I accept your point about time delays. Goodness me, the whole of Brexit's taking too long, but ultimately, I do genuinely believe there is more Scottish autonomy coming with Brexit than there would have been as part of the EU. I thank you very much indeed for your call. Hi, Nigel. With May and Sturgeon in charge, it feels like 17.4 million people are being denied democracy. Well, that's Laura's view from Shenfield. In Essex, Scotland has a devolved parliament for domestic affairs, but when it comes to a national referendum, it's the whole nation which counts, and the nation voted to leave. Others, of course, getting a bit angrier here. We should stop subsidising Scotland. They do not deserve generosity. Only England is the net payer, says Meghan. Well, there you are. And she makes the point, not Meghan Markle. Let's go to Ben, who's calling from Brighton. Good evening, Ben.
Good evening, Nigel. You started your conversation this evening on the premise of, should we just say goodbye to Scotland?
No, I didn't say that. No, Ben, I said, should we tell them where to go? And you can interpret that how you wish.
That's even worse than what I said.
All right, go on. Well, I'm saying to them, look, you've got powers over devolved issues, right? Ultimately...
Temporarily.
Hang on, ultimately...
As your last caller was saying.
No, ultimately, Brexit will give them even more powers over their own lives, but actually, given that the Welsh Assembly today have voted to accept the EU government's withdrawal bill, I think the Scottish Parliament have deliberately and provocatively stepped over the line today, and we should tell them so.
I don't agree with you. I'll tell you why.
Yep.
My parents were born in Scotland. So, if now, as an English person living in the south coast of England, and the UK is broken up with your cunning plan so that Scotland becomes a separate country, am I then an immigrant to this country? What is my immigrant?
Ben,
I don't think you thought this
matey, my plan is not to break up the United Kingdom, all right?
Yes, but Northern Ireland is quite possibly going to face a really catastrophic choice of, do we, as Northern Ireland, stay with the UK? How do we fare with this border situation? Do we have to join with the Republic of Ireland?
Well, of course they don't, Ben.
And stay within the EU? Yeah, but Nigel, I think these are the realities. Because you say, on your radio station, you say things like, of course they don't. But actually, I think the truth is that these are the real choices that people are going to have to make.
Ben, the Scots had... Come on, Ben, the Scots...
Did you see Rees-Mogg the other day? Did you see Rees-Mogg when he was asked about it?
I did.
He actually floundered like a flapping nothing. Like one of the fish you shoved into the sea. He didn't know what to say.
Because he hadn't been to Ireland. That's not necessarily... And it's not necessarily his fault. As a backbench MP from Somerset, it's not mandatory to go to Belfast, you know.
But don't shout about it then. Keep your voice down.
Well, I don't think Jacob ever shouts about anything, actually.
Quiet. Well...
Ben, look. I understand where your argument's going, but the fact is that Scotland voted to remain part of the United Kingdom. One of the main reasons they did is Alex Salmond could not answer the question of, well, if you leave the UK and stay part of the EU, surely you'll have to join the euro. He had no answer for that. And then what gave the SNP an even bigger headache was a third of their voters voted for Brexit, because they actually believed genuinely in Scottish independence. I think the SNP have got major problems over this. Ben, they voted to stay part of the UK, therefore they have to accept, surely, a national referendum result.
No, because things move on. I think this is the crucial thing. If you pick your starting 11 for Chelsea, so Mourinho picks his starting 11 when he was at Chelsea, and then the game changes, he substitutes things. He thinks, no, actually, the game has moved on from where I started. I have to actually be able to adapt and to adjust my strategy to how this is going on. This is the whole point. Hannon said no one is thinking of leaving the single market.
Well, yeah, but he is hardly, Ben, he is hardly, hang on. He is hardly a significant or major player who does adopt and adapt, I have to say, a very weird position. But Ben, you're calling me from Brighton, right? Now, if I go just a few miles to the east or west of where you are now, and I know Shoreham, Littlehampton, I know that part of the world pretty well, I would find myself in some real hardline arch leave territory. In fact, some of the conversation in pubs tonight in some of those towns would make me sound like a Europhile. And yet you're speaking from Brighton, which has a very different perspective. But doesn't Brighton and Worthing collectively have to accept the result?
Of course, we all have to accept the result. But I'm telling you that I'm from a lot of different places. Actually, I'm from Lewis. So I'm in a little rural.
Oh, well, but Ben, your background's very complicated, isn't it? The point I'm making, Ben, is it was a collective result as a United Kingdom, and oddly, I don't think the Union is weaker as a result of the referendum. I think Scotland is far more likely to stay with us than it was before 2014.
I think it puts all of those issues in peril. I really do, because it just creates a nationalist perspective from which people view things. Are we English? Are we Scottish? Are we Welsh? Are we Irish? As opposed to a little while ago, we were just British.
Well, I want us to be British again, and once we hopefully get all this done and dusted and we leave this failing European Union where countries like Italy are rejecting it en masse, hopefully we'll all be very pleased to be British. Ben, I thank you for your call. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusive in LBC. It's now 7:30 and time for the news with Tim Humphrey.
Theresa May says an inquiry needs to work out exactly what happened in Gaza yesterday during violence in which 60 people died. United Nations human rights experts have accused Israeli troops of using excessive force against demonstrators on the country's border. MPs have overturned a fresh attempt to resurrect the Leveson inquiry into media standards. Peers wanted to restart the investigation, but that's been rejected by the Commons for a second time by a majority of 12 votes. It's claimed Meghan Markle's dad has changed his mind and does want to walk her down the aisle when she marries Prince Harry on Saturday. The US showbiz website, which first reported Thomas Markle was pulling out, says he will fly to England if doctors say he's well enough to. LBC weather, cloudy with a chance of a shower tonight and a low of 12.
LBC travel in Egham. There are long queues on the approach to the Egham Hill roundabout. It's because temporary traffic lights are in place for roadworks. And on the trains, because of a signalling problem at Watford Junction, Southern are suspended between East Croydon and Milton Keynes Central. Also, Virgin Trains West Coast have delays of up to 15 minutes. That's to and from Watford Junction. And because of a track fault at Acton Mainline, Heathrow Connect services are suspended with a reduced half-hourly service on Heathrow Express. LBC Travel, I'm Anne-Marie Walsh.
This is LBC.
Can you open this bottle for me, please? Sure. Oh, I see you didn't have any trouble opening up the crisps.
Pick up 150-gram packs of Co-op Irresistible Crisps and 1.25-litre bottles of Diet Coke for just £1 each at the Co-op. Were £1.69. Participating stores subject to availability. Ends May 15th.
It's in my hair, my eyebrows, it's even up my nose. They make painting look easy on the telly, but let me tell you, it's not. The wall looks like it's been finger painted by a giant child. Who's going to rescue this? Oh, relax. It's Trust a Trader. Actual professionals who know what they're doing and don't leave the place looking like, my face. Now I can concentrate on the important stuff. Whispering peach or dirty mayonnaise. Visit trustatrader.com.
TrustTrader.com.
1 in 2 of us believe in aliens. 1 in 3 of us believe a house can be haunted. And 1 in 330 believe they are Jedi Knights. People believe all sorts of strange things. Some people believe that insurance companies try to avoid paying claims. But last year, Zurich paid 99% of insurance claims made by their UK customers. Zurich, an insurance company you can believe in. To find out more, visit zurich.co.uk/99.
OK, children, settle down. Thank you for bringing your pets in for Bring Your Pet to School Day. Megan, who is this delightful little ball of fur?
It's Trico, my guinea pig, miss.
Adorable. And Alfie, who's this?
It's Ronaldo, my rabbit, miss.
What a darling. And what's in the wooden crate, Poppy?
Fluffy.
That's a very strong lock. This way, children.
With a Land Rover Discovery, adventure can take you, well, anywhere. Never stop discovering. Search Land Rover Discovery. Land Rover, above and beyond.
If you own a Swiss watch and it's time to sell it, speak to watches.co.uk. The whole process runs like clockwork. Rolex, Patek Philippe, Omega and more. It only takes a couple of ticks and we pay immediately. Or if you just fancy a change, we could take yours in part exchange. From time on your hands to money in your pocket, it couldn't be easier with watches.co.uk. The pre-owned Swiss watch specialist.
Leading Britain's conversation, The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag #FarageOnLBC.
The Scottish Parliament votes by 93 votes to 30 to reject the government's EU withdrawal bill. And I'm saying we should tell Nicola Sturgeon and the Scots, please go away, don't trouble us. You voted to be part of a United Kingdom and the Brexit result was a national result. But before I get there, for over 10 years, one of the arguments I made in favour of Brexit was that opening the doors to 8 and then 10 former communist countries led to a massive oversupply in the unskilled and semi-skilled labour market in this country and led to wage compression, led to people earning fewer monies at the end of their monthly pay packet. Of course, for doing that, I was decried as if I'd made some bizarre extremist argument. And of course, those against me were the political class and particularly the big businesses who love as much cheap foreign labour as possible. We'll just have a little think about this. Announced this morning, wages grew faster than inflation for the first time in almost a year in February, whilst the jobless rate fell to 4.2%. Wages were up 2.9% in the 3 months to March on a year earlier, up from 2.8% the month before, whilst the employment rate has risen to a new record high of 75.4%. Why has it happened, folks? Let me tell you why. The number of EU nationals in employment fell by 1.2% due to a drop in the number of workers coming from the recent accession countries to the European Union. The number of workers from those countries in Central and Southern Europe has dropped by nearly 10% in the last year. This is called market forces. Fewer people in the marketplace, wages go up. And nobody who supports Brexit is saying we should absolutely pull up the drawbridge. What we have always said is we should control the numbers coming across it, and we are beginning to see some benefits from Brexit because fewer people are coming. It all makes sense to me. I did have a proper job before getting into politics. I understand how business and economics works. And still, there is a huge catch-up for workers in this country. A long, long way to go. But hey, we've turned the corner. That, to me, is a very good thing. The Better Together campaign was based on one single premise. The only way to stay in the EU was to remain in the UK. That single premise is no longer valid. The UK is finished in all but name. Well, whoever sent that, I don't agree. Because if you had a referendum now in Scotland, or a referendum in Northern Ireland even, and you said to people, you know, do you want to join the European Union and accept the euro as your currency and be fully part of a European army, they would simply say no. And I think Scotland is much more closely bound to the United Kingdom now than it was 4 to 5 years ago. That's my view. What does John in Guildford think? Good evening, John.
Hello. I don't see why it should be the decision of the Scots only whether the UK stays as one thing. I think my view is, yes, let the Scots have a referendum on independence, but at the same time let the other parts of the UK have a referendum on whether they want the Scots.
So the English have a vote on whether we kick out Scotland, yeah?
Yes.
Oh,
Why
gosh.
not?
Well, what do you think the result would be, John?
I don't know. But whatever it is, we should stick with it. I think it might well be that the English are absolutely fed up to the back teeth with the Scots. The Scots, they say that in any football match between Germany and England, they would support Germany.
Do you know, John, I genuinely, like you, I do not know what the result of a referendum in England on Scotland would be, but it may
I think it might well be to kick the Scotland into the North Sea.
I think the English are feeling increasingly angry at the amount of English taxpayers' money that is shoveled over Hadrian's Wall every year.
The Barnett formula.
Yeah, and in return for which, there are quite a lot of leading Scottish politicians who are rather nasty about the English. So things do need to improve. But the idea, John, that you have a referendum on kicking out various bits of the UK, it just doesn't fly, does it?
Well, I don't see why not. I mean, the English are by far the biggest by numbers in the UK. Why should we be disenfranchised? Why should the Scots say, we want to leave? They are leaving England. Why shouldn't England leave Scotland?
Yeah, maybe they are pushing me that. John, do you know what percentage of the United Kingdom is in England by population?
I would guess 80%.
It's 86%. It's 86%. No, you were way up. But I bet a lot of people, John, listening, say, no, that can't be right. It's 86%. John, I take your point. You are not alone in saying it. I've certainly had several London cab drivers say to me they are sick and tired of being talked about the way the Scots have. Not in all cases, but in some. Nigel, if Scotland had voted for independence and left Great Britain, there would have been nearly 800,000 fewer votes for staying in the European Union, making the majority of over 2 million, says Judy from Sidcup. Yeah, no, that's a very fair point, but it's not the way that it happened. SNP, 1.5 million votes, 39 MPs. UKIP, 4 million votes and 0 MPs. Well, John, we'll debate the voting system another night, something I do feel quite passionately about, which won't surprise you. The Scottish Parliament have democratically voted against the bill due to the powers which Westminster are seeking to grab, not due to leaving the EU. It is true that with this bill, Westminster, to begin with Brexit, takes the powers, but do not think for one moment that they won't be given a lot of powers out to Scotland. And I would argue that farming and fishing would finish up being run from Holyrood. That's a lot more power than Scotland would ever have as a member state of the European Union. Clive is calling from Fife. Good evening, Clive.
Hello, Nigel.
So, Clive, you know, you're hearing my last caller from Guildford in the home counties. Do you understand why, Clive, there is a growing sense of resentment in England about the Scots?
Yeah, because typically the English think they're better than the Scots. They think they're in charge of the Scots. And your last caller typifies the little Englander mentality that just shows why Scotland wants rid of England. We support the whole of the UK with our oil revenues, exports. You can't deny it. Check the figures. The sooner Scotland is free from people like you and your last caller, the better. You people disgust me.
Oh, so do you hate the English, Clive? Oh, he's gone. He didn't answer it, but I think we know what the answer was. It's the oil. It's all the oil, you see. Because of the oil, they're incredibly rich, and the English are sponging off them. Well, actually, mate Clive, I tell you what, actually, we spend, as a country, a lot more money, nearly £1,500 a year more per capita on people living in Scotland than we do in England. And that is under something called the Barnett formula, which goes back to the 1970s and is hopelessly outdated. And you've got to understand, Clive, some people are beginning to resent it. Let's go miles away for a view from somebody who hopefully won't be quite as stoked up as Clive was, and that's Mark, who's calling from Marbella in Spain. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Nigel. Thanks for taking the call.
A Scot living in Marbella, I can tell fairly immediately. So...
Yes, that's right.
So, Mark, come on, sum it all up for us.
Basically, I'm going to throw the spin into the pot, if you like, by saying I am a nationalist, Scottish nationalist. I did vote for independence. I also voted for Brexit, and ever since the vote for Brexit came down as what I was wanting to happen, I now no longer I cannot be a part of the SNP anymore. I can't stand what they're trying to do to Scotland in general. How can a country take an independent stance and then immediately hand power to the EU? It doesn't make sense.
Well, Mark, you said that you voted for independence, but what Alex Salmond was offering you wasn't independence, was it?
No, but it was a step in the direction that I wanted to go in.
What? So be governed from Brussels rather than Westminster, in a sense?
Well, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Listen. I've actually made a bit of a name for myself down here in Marbella. I'm quite often asked to go on local radio and things because people think I'm more right wing than Attila the Hun. But I genuinely want the United Kingdom. And people ask me as well, why is it if I live in Spain, what's it got to do with, why do I want anything to do with independence for the UK? Because surely that's shooting myself in the foot. Well, no, it's not, because what I want is what's best for my kids and my family back home. I don't believe that it will affect me, as I've got businesses here in Spain, and I don't believe it's going to affect me in any huge way whatever, because we need a reciprocal agreement between Spain and the UK and between other countries in the EU.
Sure. But Mark, your position, as somebody that voted for, and I'm going to say separation, not independence, but then voted Brexit, about a third of the SNP voted for Brexit, and that gives that party now a big problem, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Of course it does.
And you're part of that problem. Mark from Marbella, thank you for your call. Terrific stuff. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show exclusively on LBC. It's now 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
Violent clashes outside Downing Street as Theresa May rolled out the red carpet for the Turkish president. But should the UK be so welcoming to Turkey?
Clive Bull on LBC.
So, tell us your name and what you do.
My name's Clive and I'm a hermit crab. Clive's the name, moving home is the game.
And as a hermit crab, do you like finding new places to live?
Oh yeah, before Zoopla, it used to do my shelling.
And it's better now?
Oh, with Zoopla, finding a new place is easy. And they help manage your move too. From comparing mortgages to checking removals. They even help find broadband and telly packages. I never miss an episode of Celebrity Crab Island!
Well, that's certainly something to be proud of.
Find and move with Zoopla. Smarter about property.
Right now, you can drive off with Aviva car insurance rated 5-star by de facto from just £176 a year. And should you need us, our claims line is open 24/7. Get a quote today, direct from aviva.co.uk.
10% of customers paid £176 or less for our standard cover, November 2017 to January 2018. Priced individually.
1 in 4 children believe potatoes grow on trees. 1 in 5 children believe fish fingers are made from chicken. And 1 in 8 adults believe the moon landings didn't happen. People believe all sorts of strange things. Some people believe that insurance companies try to avoid paying claims. But last year, Zurich paid 99% of insurance claims made by their UK customers. Zurich, an insurance company you can believe in. To find out more, visit zurich.co.uk/99.
My house, my office, they're a mess. You need London Storage Vaults. Their self-storage units are in an underground vault near Oxford Circus, so they're completely safe. They're also climate controlled, so they're ideal for anything from paperwork to fine wines. Sounds great. They'll collect your stuff for free if you're in zones 1 and 2. There's 24/7 access and all from just £10 a week.
London Storage Vaults, the future of self-storage. Visit londonstoragevaults.com. Terms and conditions apply.
That looks very good, sir.
Really? Have to say, I love the colour. And I can tailor it to suit me exactly.
Of course. We have lots of options. How's the fit?
Yeah, brilliant. Loads of room.
Good to hear. So that you can be sure you like it, why don't you have it over the weekend?
Perfect. It'll turn a few heads in town, and I think my friends are going to love it.
Excellent. Here are the keys. The stylish, spacious Mini Clubman. Take a 48-hour test drive to try one on for size. Who's in? Test drive subject to status and availability. Terms and conditions apply. Participating Mini retailers only.
Is your MOT or service due? At QuickFit, we've got over 500 centres across the UK that can do both, and most of them are open 7 days a week. Plus, with our special offers, there's always a great deal to be had. So head down to your local QuickFit today or book online and drive away happy.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
The Scottish Parliament overwhelmingly reject the government's EU withdrawal bill on the same day that the Welsh Assembly accept it. I'm asking you, how does that make you feel about Scotland? What should we say to those Scottish politicians? But before I get back to that, today we've had a visit. The red carpet's been rolled out today in Downing Street for President Erdogan of Turkey. Here was Theresa May welcoming him.
The importance of the UK-Turkey partnership is also demonstrated by our growing trade relationship and is now worth more than £15 billion. And to look to our future trade relationship once the UK leaves the EU. During my visit to Turkey, BAE Systems and TAI, which resulted in a contract worth more than £100 million, being signed in August 2017. This was the start of a deep and enduring defence partnership, including a new and unique government-to-government agreement that set a new framework for cooperation and dialogue, including between our defence ministries and air forces.
So everything's fine. According to Prime Minister May, everything is fine. We must do a lot more business with Turkey and recognise them as being the great friends that they are. Well, of course she'd say that. She was part of a government that were desperate to get Turkey to become members of the European Union. Could I remind you, Prime Minister, that this is the leader who is turning this country way away from what Ataturk set it up to be, the secular state that he set it up to be. And don't forget Ataturk, the man who came to power by beating the British in the Gallipoli campaign of 1915. All of that is being reversed. It's becoming a very strongly Islamic country. There are hundreds of journalists in prison as we speak, and tens of thousands of people who he sees as the opposition, including teachers, in prison. But it's fine, Mrs. May. What a shame we didn't vote to stay in the European Union. They could have joined us. And as for the people on the left, as for Amnesty International, and all the people that tell me that they're going to put 250,000 people on the streets to protest against Donald Trump. Well, twice today I was in Whitehall, opposite Number 10, and yes, there are protests there. Yes, they let off flares. I came past at about 6:20. I would guess there were 300 people there. If you really want to get out there, Amnesty and everybody else, in your huge numbers, you should have been there today. I just can't believe that we roll out the red carpet for Erdogan. We have a pitiful little protest on Whitehall, and yet when Trump comes to town, apparently there's going to be an attempt to close the whole capital of London down. I cannot believe it. Back to Scotland. Colin says on Facebook, for those saying just give Scotland independence, I'll remind you, the majority want to stay in the UK and the majority of the UK want to leave the EU. That's democracy. Well, Colin, tell that to Nicola Sturgeon, who rejects the results of both referendums, the one in 14 in Scotland, the one in 16 on Brexit. Peter thinks this has got nothing to do with leaving the EU. It's about making sure the returning powers come back to where they belong in respect to a devolution settlement. Peter, I do understand that argument, but it will happen. There is no prospect of Westminster wanting to get back any of those devolved powers. In fact, I would absolutely wager that when it comes to fishing and farming, the Scottish Parliament with Brexit will find itself with even more autonomy than it's got right now. Mark says on SMS, the economy of Scotland is in a dire state. They're not fit to manage their affairs and should respect democracy. They would be worse off under EU rule. Well, Mark, it's very interesting this, but, you know, for some years, Alex Salmond was championing Scotland joining the euro. When that clearly appeared to be not the right thing to do, he said no, Scotland wouldn't join the euro. What is absolutely clear is that any member state that now joins the European Union, which Scotland would be if it left the United Kingdom, has to sign up to that commitment. It just isn't going to happen. It's the same argument about Northern Ireland joining the Republic. They would not sign up to the euro. That's one of perhaps many other reasons. Alex in Edgware, give us some sense of all of this, please.
If you talk less, Nigel, you know, more oxygen will actually go to your brain.
Oh, right. OK, Alex, right. Good evening. Well, I trust you've had a really nice day, Alex, because you're clearly in a very good mood. So,
I am in a good mood.
So enlighten us. Tell us something, Alex, because clearly you're very clever. You obviously think you are. So tell us something that we don't all know.
Nigel, the first thing is, if you're a country like the United Kingdom, and I know you know nothing about our constitution, which is not a written constitution.
Oh, is that right? Oh, you're educating me. Thank you, Alex. Very good.
Yeah, I'll try and educate you. The first thing you'll recognise is you don't make a decision like Brexit or even have a vote on something like Brexit without a proper constitutional settlement. And we don't have one in the United Kingdom. The various regions of the UK, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, are not properly represented at Westminster.
Well, they're overrepresented in many ways, Alex, aren't they?
Well, they're not.
But by population, they are overrepresented compared to England.
They're
massively overrepresented.
You would need to have, well, that's an arguable case.
No, Alex. It's no. I know you're very clever, but it's not arguable if you work out the number of members of Parliament per constituent and you compare it. You find that actually the other three parts of the United Kingdom are massively overrepresented compared to it.
No, they're not, because there are lots of constituencies in the city centres that Labour controls in England, and also there are many Conservative constituencies in the southern. But this isn't the point I'm asking.
Well, the Isle of Wight's got 140,000 voters and one MP.
Yeah,
that would get you 2 or 3 seats in some other parts, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but the point is, how would you have a referendum in which some parts of the UK have voted to come out of the EU, other parts have voted to stay in? You'd need to have you'd need to set up a system for a referendum, even if you're doing a referendum. I'm not a fan of referendums, but you'd have to have a system that is going to have a supermajority, so that you've got the country as a whole behind you. And the reason we don't have that is because many parts of the UK recognise that the EU, our involvement in the single market, customs union, and our membership of the EU is more beneficial to certain parts of the UK, and the Scots know this. Up north, in particular,
they don't know anything, Alex. It's been a disaster for their. It's been a disaster for their fishing industry. Disaster for them.
Nigel, you're saying they're going to get more powers. You know that's a nonsense. Brexit, as it stands at the moment, is a complete and utter fiasco. It doesn't make any sense to anybody. It doesn't make sense to the Conservative ministers that are in the position of having to try and implement it. It's a case of the emperor's new clothes.
So would the easiest thing, Alex, to be to reverse Brexit? Is that what you're suggesting would solve everything?
No, unfortunately, Nigel, I'm not a fan of the people who are trying to, the old Labour Blairites who don't respect public opinion. And I'm more on the Corbynite side in the sense that you must respect the public's opinion, but it's highly likely on this issue that the public's got it wrong. But then we have to
those cretinous, unwashed public people. Is that why you don't like referendums?
No, the point is that the information about Brexit and the circumstances involved, being involved in an open market, are quite mega complex. The cabinet's been struggling.
Isn't it terribly simple, Alex? Either you want to be a self-governing nation, or you don't want to be a self-governing nation.
Nonsense.
Isn't that what Brexit was about?
So is Germany not a self-governing nation?
No, absolutely not. No, you cannot be. You cannot be an independent, self-governing nation if your laws are made elsewhere and your courts are overruled. Alex, our genius from Edgware, I'm going to have to let you go. Nigel, please stop dividing the UK, says Billy from Glasgow. God, that's rich. I've got time for one last quick call. I'm going back to Brighton. Goodness knows what I'm going to get. And it's Vicky. Good evening, Vicky.
Hello. Hello, Nigel. Good evening. Yes, well, I voted to leave the EU, but that's not what I rang up about. That bloke from Scotland made me so fuming, but he was so rude about the English. I know you gave not exactly a throwaway line about the Barnett formula, £1,500 per head more, but I want to bring it much more so people understand. north of the border, if you have a family, mum, dad, teenage children, elderly parents, there is enough money there, even though they screwed their economy, I would say, from English taxpayers mainly. There's no nursing home fees. There's no university fees.
I know.
There are no...
Vicky, I'm almost out of time. You've made some very powerful points. Is it time, actually, the Scots were a bit nicer to us?
Absolutely.
All right, Vicky, I've got to leave you there. We have completely and utterly run out of time. What we have not run out of is passion, because there's loads of it out there. You've been listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'm back tomorrow night at 7. At 10 tonight, it's Ian Collins. But up next, it's Clyde Bull.
Nigel, thank you very much indeed. Coming up between now and 10, well, at 9, it's the Health Hour, and I'm joined this week by GP Dr. Mike Smith here.